And we're back in Inside the Ropes, and the man on the line today is someone we've wanted to have on the show for a long, long time. He was arguably the face of TNA for many, many years, and now he's making huge waves in Japan as well. He is the phenomenal AJ Styles. AJ, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So yeah, the first thing I wanted to kind of bring up was when people look back at 2014, one of the big kind of news stories is going to be your impact in New Japan, because when you got there in April and ended up joining Bullet Club, it's just become this huge thing that fans are talking about, and it just feels like a really big point in your career. I mean, how has it kind of felt for you? How did it come about, you going there, and how have you found it so far?
Well, I got to tell you, man, starting off the first of this year, I was a little nervous. It was one of those things where TNA almost made me feel like I wasn't worthy, of doing well in this wrestling business. Maybe that I wasn't as good. So there was some worry there, but I was quickly jumping to, Ring of Honor first and got going, and then the Indies just, overwhelmed with them, to be honest with you. But then you had the opportunity to go to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and the first thing that I did was take out their, IWGP champion and join the Bullet Club, which was huge. The Bullet Club is definitely the biggest thing going, in my opinion, in pro wrestling. I was just in L.A. Wrestling for PWG, and literally half of the fans are wearing Bullet Club shirts. So something is going on, man, and it is awesome in New Japan Pro Wrestling. I would say this, that, New Japan Pro Wrestling is easily the second biggest wrestling promotion in the world, and they made money this year, and they made a lot of it. While the other two, WWE and TNA, didn't make money this year. So that says something about what, New Japan Pro Wrestling and what they're doing over there.
And obviously, I mean, the cool thing about you now, sort of having gone from TNA in a way, is that you're getting to wrestle in a lot of different places. You mentioned Ring of Honor. I think you're gonna be a part of their next pay-per-view against.
Yeah.
Is it? So you're gonna be a part of that, and also you're coming back to the UK as well, which is really exciting. You're going to be in Gloucester on the 4th of October for the Superstars of Wrestling show. I guess, the UK must be a kind of place, we asked this to most of the people that have wrestled in TNA, the UK kind of seemed like that was almost your WrestleMania crowd. Do you know what I mean? Like,
they're always a WrestleMania crowd. They're always, they're always ready to see good wrestling, and they're always excited to see it. They're very respectful. When TNA would go over there, they would do well, because people just want to see good wrestling. And so it was always fun to go to the UK, man, and it always is.
And in terms of you coming over here, obviously the one of the things that's kind of been quite public in the news was obviously when you were in the UK for PCW, and there was the incident with Lionheart. And one of the things that when we said you were coming on the show, a lot of people wanted us to ask you about it, so I'm just going to kind of throw it to you. Is I know that you'd kind of talked about it on Chris Jericho's podcast as well. And just for people who haven't really heard about it, what happened from your perspective on that night that caused obviously the injury to Lionheart? What happened, and what made you sort of bring it up on Chris Jericho's podcast to sort of talk about it again?
Well, I'll tell you what made me bring it up. First of all, it was talked about in FSM magazine, which is a great magazine. I love to read it. But the accident that happened was terrible. I hate it. What happened is I gave Lionheart the style clash, and he tucked his head, which is the one thing you can't do, and ended up breaking his neck. And I didn't even know, because I didn't come on following with all, my full body weight or anything like that. It just felt almost normal to me, because I can't see it, obviously. Sometimes I can tell when someone's about to do that, and sometimes I can wait and see what they're thinking, or I don't come down on them very hard. But it was tragic. It sucks, and I wish it never happened. But the problem that I had with it was this, in FSM magazine, is he talked about all the things that he was worried about, and and basically made it sound like this was the most dangerous move in professional wrestling. And I don't want that over my head. You know, if he would have said that, hey, man, I don't feel comfortable taking it, no problem. We could easily do something else. But he didn't. And it came across it was a dangerous move, and took 2 sentences to say it was his fault. You know, I landed on my head in the G1 tournament, from a Spider German, from a combat. I'm not blaming him at all. And, it's pro wrestling. This is what happens. It's nobody's fault. If anything, it's my fault for attempting the move, because it was my decision. So, but the thing is, it came across as a very dangerous move, and the reality is it's not dangerous at all. In fact, you're in total control of your body. I'm just taking you to your belly. Otherwise, you're in total control of your upper body. You can put your hands down. You can do whatever. The one thing you can't do is tuck your head. And why would you on a move when you're landing on your stomach? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the problem that I had with it. That it came across as very dangerous, and that for pro wrestling. And I've been doing this for years and years, and no one ever got hurt on that move. I won't say that. Maybe 1 or 2 guys got hurt because, they took their head. Well, my best friend did it. Took his head. I'm like, what are you doing? And he said, I have no idea what I was doing. I don't know what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't blame me. He blamed himself. At the end of the day, that's the only person you can blame. And so my point I'm making is it's not dangerous at all. I may have given it to Christopher Daniels a couple million times, and he's doing fine.
Well, just obviously in the interest of kind of full disclosure, Lionheart has said publicly that it was his fault that he tucked his head and that it wasn't your fault for the move. He has said that just so we can get that out there. But did you manage to
Yeah, so that's not what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Is that he took 2, 4 or 5 paragraphs to say pretty much how dangerous it was and how scared he was to take this move, and then took 2 sentences to say it wasn't AJ's fault.
So
that's what bothered.
It was maybe more the way that article was written that made you want to bring it up rather than the message at the end. Okay.
Right. I mean, that was the message that I got was that your move, the Styles Clash, is way too dangerous, for pro wrestling. That was what I got out of it. I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? So, like I said, though, it's not something that I wanted to happen. I wish it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's a terrible thing.
And I guess, obviously, you could spend 12 hours covering your TNA career, but kind of looking back in your career in TNA, what are the main matches that you kind of remember and are proud of, and I guess are your favourites from your time there? Because you did so much in that company.
Well, I remember, the first X Division championship, when I won won the X Division title. That was very special to me. Wrestling Christopher Daniels and then wrestling Joe and Chris, in the 3-way match, and just stuff like that. I remember then having the opportunity to work Kurt so many times, and we actually had that match in England, and I think it was Wembley Arena. We had a match there. Kurt and I just absolutely tore their house down. So that, there's definitely some great matches. With the first lockdown ever, which was a silly thing to do, to have a cage match for every match. But Vince and I were able to pull off something different in that match, and it was incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it absolutely was. And I guess one of the things that people always talk about with your TNA career is the Claire Lynch story from 2012.
Well, yeah.
I need to admit something to you. Is that we kind of made a running gag of that storyline every week because it was so great in certain ways, but it seemed like, because obviously, I mean, you are renowned as being one of the world's greatest wrestlers. That's what people know you as, and it just seemed at one point that people were kind of going, AJ Styles is in this.
Well, let me explain this. I think I don't know if I explained it in Jericho's podcast. I don't know if anybody heard that, but let me explain this whole thing, because it wasn't anybody's idea, but me, Chris, and Frankie thought up the storyline. Now, the problem with how it was done was not the way that we had planned it. The main thing in here is that, yes, there was this Claire Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, she had a drug problem. but instead of Dixie said it was a friend of the family. Now that doesn't make any sense. Why would I care if it's a friend of that? Why would AJ Styles help out this girl?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it was her niece, which was what we talked about, then we didn't want to damage, the way that people looked at TNA because someone in their family had a drug problem. And so AJ Styles was going to take care of it and do it in secret and go back to Dixie and tell her things. That's where you got all these pictures so that Dixie and AJ Styles may be together. But then there was going to be a point in time where we're going to have to tell them what's happened. And Claire would come out and she would be the hottest blonde or, brunette, whatever. But the main thing is she is smoking hot. Because at the end of the day, when she says, well, maybe, AJ Styles did something with me, you might go, you know what? I don't blame AJ because she is so hot. Why wouldn't he? But the problem with that is when they bring up a girl that looks like olive oil, it doesn't make any sense. She was a friend of the family. All this stuff didn't make sense, so it didn't go together. It didn't make any. It wasn't believable that AJ Styles would even put a finger on this chick. So it just got worse and worse, and they tried to fix it, and it just let it go, and they refused and kept on going with it, But had it went the way that we had planned, I think it would have came out a lot better and more believable.
And were you able to sort of, obviously you're saying it didn't come out the way that you wanted it to, but were you guys able to sort of have, because we've spoken to Christopher Daniels before on the show, and he had, and Kazarian actually, and they both talked about how when they were in Bad Influence, that anything good that you saw pretty much was them. They came up with
That's it. And absolutely. There's no question.
Were you guys able to have creative input to stuff, or was it a case of most of the stuff that you wanted to do, you weren't able to do and you were kind of given something else?
I find that it was easier to talk with Eric Bischoff and explain what we were trying to do. And him going, that's cool. Let's do that. And it was very, open about the, ideas and stuff. Because, he doesn't have all the best of it. Neither do we, because there was times he was like, whoa. And he explained the reason why that's not a good idea. And I appreciate that. So, but a lot of good stuff came, I think, when Eric Bischoff was there. Now, I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people because they blame Eric for a lot of things. But, one thing he wasn't afraid to do was take other people's ideas and run with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you talk about, just throwing this out there, Scott Hall was the one that came up with the black and white sting, and Eric Bischoff went with it. That just goes to show that, when he thinks he hears a good idea, he's not afraid to say, hey, man, that's a good one. Let's roll with it. Where other writers basically get pissed off and say, well, you didn't write that, so we're not going to do it. If we wrote, that's the thing.
The thing about your kind of, when you left TNA is your last storyline in TNA was excellent. When you were the lone wolf and you were sort of, it was your journey to get the belt back. I mean, that was a really good story that when it came to Bound for Glory, people really wanted to see the AJ Styles character beat Billy Ray, and they got to see that. I guess it must be good for you because it's not like when you left the company that you were, having to do anything really degrading on the show. You were leaving the company as the top guy. Right.
And I thought about that a lot, and it makes me wonder, did they give me the belt so that it would entice me to stay? I was like, because why would they do this? They haven't offered me a contract. We extended the contract that I was on, and then they gave me the belt, and literally I held on to it until the day I left. So it was weird. I didn't understand it, but at the same time, I wasn't going to tell them, to take it off of me because I'm probably leaving. If they want to do it that way, then it only makes me stronger as a wrestler.
Yeah, exactly. So when you signed that extension to kind of stay a couple more months, when they were talking to you about storylines and doing things, were they all kind of talking to you as if it's a done deal, you're going to stay here, or was there always that kind of, because it must be a weird situation where you've kind of extended your deal with them, they're still putting you over on TV as the top guy in the company, but they've still not made much of an effort to actually re-sign you fully.
Yeah, they weren't even talking about my contract. It's what's so crazy. It was in the last month, the December month, that they actually started talking about the contract. So I know it sounds mind-boggling. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but that's the truth. They did not start talking about the contract seriously until December. And December, I think it was December 15th, I was done.
And I mean, I guess for one of the parallels that I was thinking, I thought about you immediately when I read the report from PW Insider about Billy Ray, that he apparently, as of right now, is not under contract to TNA. And again, that was baffling because the week before on television, he'd put Dixie through a table, and again, it's very similar to you. He was presented as the top guy in the company, and I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe maybe they are doing that, putting you guys over so big to try and get you guys to stay. But I mean, at the end of last year, the beginning of this year, I know there's a lot of people that were kind of worried for you, maybe about if you not being at TNA, what's going to happen. But I mean, you've proved everybody wrong. I mean, your career is arguably better than ever.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy right now. I look at it this way, that just going off of Twitter, since I've been gone from Twitter, I've picked up like 60,000 more followers. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I was on TNA for so long, and and I was stuck in the rut. And then after that, when I left, people started jumping on bandwagon with the Bullet Club and whatnot. It's crazy to think about leaving a company that's on television and going somewhere else. And it seems like more people notice me now than ever. And
obviously. The last kind of thing we wanted to talk to you about is with TNA right now. There's a lot of kind of up in the air things about their television. From you being there, having worked there so long, do you think there is a future for TNA in the US?
It doesn't look good with everything that's going on. It really looks bad, to be honest with you. Spike TV pretty much said, you know what, we don't really need you anymore, because they haven't even got a deal yet. They barely even talked about a deal. They extended it till the end of the year, but still haven't got a deal. And I would imagine that if TNA got a deal with Spike, it'd be much cheaper for Spike to keep TNA. Whatever Spike's paying TNA, it wouldn't be as much. I heard there was another TV station, but it wouldn't even be enough to keep TNA going. So it doesn't look good for TNA, and it's sad. Despite what, I may think about it, or Frankie and Chris, or other guys who have left, we put a lot of time and energy into that company. And it's sad to see all that go away, all this things that we've done for this company. And it's hard, man. I said this before, and, so that's your first love, man. You'll always love that first girl that you fell in love with. You'll never forget her. She'll always have a place in your heart. And it's kind of the same way with TNA. I don't want it to go under, despite what people may think. I'm just saying that it doesn't look good, and it may go under. I hope it doesn't. There's a lot of good wrestlers there that deserve to have a job. And, so I hope that they figure something out. I hope that they get a better TV deal or whatever it is. I hope they continue to exist.
Indeed. And so for everyone in the UK, if you want to check out AJ coming to the UK, he is going to be there for the Superstars of Wrestling on Saturday the 4th of October. It's going to be a really good show, actually. It's got Davey Boy Smith Jr. on it, Doug Williams, Jushin Thunder Liger is going to be there. So to get tickets, all you need to do is go on Facebook and just type in Superstars of Wrestling UK, like their page, and they've got all the ticket info there. AJ, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and good luck with everything in New Japan, Ring of Honor, and whatever else you end up.
All right, buddy. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.